Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 371. Today we're going to talk about Trains: The Rising Sun expansion. This is the first expansion for Trains, which came out in 2012, I think. And if you're not familiar with Trains is a deck building game where you are creating routes on the board and trying to score victory points in a variety of different ways. And it is very much patterned off the original quote-unquote deck building game of Dominion. So let's take a look at some of the different cards and some of the new maps and things, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. Now here you can kind of see everything that comes in the game. Now this is everything in the expansion plus the base game. I've got everything stored in one box here, and just wanted to show you my little storage solution that I just kind of came up with on the fly. I have all the cards for the game here on the side, at least most of them. I've got like some waste cards and some of the starter deck cards here. I took out one map, but everything does fit in there, and I can get all the cards in here. And I do have actually all of the maps. So I've got the two Gen Con promo maps and things like that. So once they come out with another expansion, which I believe is in the plans, I'm not sure, then I'll probably have to do something else. But anyway, you can do this if you like to squeeze everything in one box. So the main addition to the game are new maps and new cards. There's no change in player count or anything like that. I wanted to show you one cool thing about some of the things that go with the maps. So you have here Chiba map, which I'll show you in a little bit more detail, but you have these route bonus cards that go with the map. So if we take a look at these, you have, and depending on the number of players, you're going to shuffle up these different route bonus cards and then set them out on the table, and you can see the first player to make a connection from one side to the other. So you've got here, it's just sort of upside down, but you've got the 5 spot here and connect that all the way up here to Katasura, and the first person that do that is going to take this card, put it in front of you, and then each of these you can see has different special effects that they can use, and that's sort of a one-off trigger. So you score the points immediately, and then you've got a special ability maybe to give you an extra $1, ignore some waste, or do this, you know, if you kind of just barely need a little bit of a bump or a boost, these kinds of cards will come in very handy for you. Now they do have these route bonus cards for the maps in the base game and the expansion, as well as some of the other promo maps. There's one promo map, I believe the latest Gen Con promo map, that doesn't have a route bonus card, but maybe you just, you know, you play that game without the route bonuses. So let's take a look at the new cards in the game that you can purchase. Now one thing you'll notice is it's actually added randomizer cards for some of the buildings that were originally in the base game, because the rules have changed slightly in this regard. I mean, you could play however you want really, but you add these into the randomizer, so you may or may not have some or none of these building cards that you buy. And now most of these building cards, you buy them, you get points at the end of the game. These do go into your deck. They are dead cards, at least the original ones, in your deck, and you get waste when you buy them. So here you can see randomizer cards for the originals, but now we have some different building cards here. And this is the office building. You get only 1 point for it, but it does actually generate money for you when it comes back up in your deck, which is pretty cool. And then you've got the stadium here. This is a big dollar amount. This costs you $11 to buy, and you actually take 2 waste, but it's worth 6 points. So it's the biggest of these, you know, sort of victory point cards. And then we have the distribution center, which is a little bit different style card. You pay $6 and you get a waste, and then it says here at the end of the game, gain 1 point for every 4 cities in your rail network. So you can see the different cities that you connect to. This can give you a different reason to connect to a city where you might have left it alone, or, you know, figured that you could, you know, go do something else on your turn. This is kind of an interesting addition. Now I'm going to quickly run through, I think, all of the cards. I think I grabbed them all, the new ones out. I may have missed 1 or 2, but I'm going to go through this really quickly and then show you a little bit of the new maps and stuff, and then go to the review. So first one is strategy meeting. You see it gives you $1 when you play it, and then you place a card from your hand on top of your deck. No big deal, but you can kind of plan, again, strategize for a next turn if you don't quite have a great hand this turn. Upgrade gives you $1. You discard 2 cards and then draw 2 cards. So again, kind of cycling your deck, hoping to get the right cards. A limited partnership gives you $1. Draw 2 cards, each other player draws 1 card. That's kind of a cool card. Everybody likes that when somebody plays that. And then we have the junkyard, another way to score points here. So you do this, you get a waste, it generates $2 for you, and it gives you a victory point when you play it. It costs you $6 to do it. Again, this is kind of optional, so you can see it actually generates 0 money, but if you decide you don't want to play that, like you really don't want an extra waste, or you know, for some reason you don't want to play it, then you don't have to actually, you know, generate that part of it. We'll see more of that later. So here you have discard 2 identical cards from your hand and then draw 3 cards. So that's kind of tricky to pull off, but again, you could have 2 waste, or you could have 2 of the beginning train cards, so that's kind of a cool card. And next we have the Reclamation Depot. Then this is trash a train card, probably a starting train card, in your play area to gain $1. So it does say in your play area, so you could have actually played it, which is cool. Extra Laborers gives you $1 when you play it. Choose a track card. This card copies the card that you choose. So you can do some double laying tracks and things. This is kind of cool, but it also gives you $1, which is very nice because sometimes you need to spend $1 to get in these different areas. This is choose a train card in your play area. This card copies that card as you, so you can double up on the money. So that's pretty cool. This one is draw 1 card and ignore any waste taken this turn. This is like an instant buy. You know, it only costs you 2. It cycles or mills through the deck, and then it lets you ignore any waste you may acquire, or the first waste you may acquire. Excuse me, not the first waste, the next waste. I don't want to say it wrong. Okay. This one is, you can play it. It gives you $1, and you can pay $4 to get a point. So another interesting way to score points outside of the norm. This one is return 2 waste cards from your discard pile or hand to the deck, and you gain $1 for each of those. So it's another way of cleaning your deck out, but also making some money on the side. Now we have Incinerator. Reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal 2 waste. Return these to the deck, and then you can discard the rest. A good way to go through your deck very quickly, and also maybe blow by some cards you wanted to draw, but you get rid of 2 waste instead of 1. Dispatcher, this is a cool one. Trash an action card, a red card, from your play area. Gain an action card of a cost up to 2 more than the trash card. So this is another one of those early buys that's pretty much an instant buy for a lot of people, and then it lets you sort of, you know, echelon up your deck building. Next one, this is how we're going to get into the attack cards, and this is a straight copy of a card in Dominion to a degree. It gives you $1, which is the card in Dominion. I believe it was Soldiers or something, as in the original set. Each other player discards down to 4 cards. Nobody likes that, but they're unhappy. You can see they're sleeping at the train station. No good. Politician, everybody's favorite person. Attack, each player passes a card to his right. Return a card from your hand to the supply. I really like this card. It's very interesting because you can force people to get rid of some cards, and you know, if they have a waste, they're just going to pass it. But it allows you to throw, you know, something away, either like a newbie train card or a waste card. I don't know, I really like this card. It works out pretty interesting. And next we have Protesters. You get $1. It's another attack. Each other player discards a lay track style card from their hand or reveals a card with none of those. So interesting sort of, I don't know, targeted attack, but you can really sort of slow things down at certain points kind of midway through the game, or even early in the game, I guess. But it's very specifically, you know, targeting, so kind of interesting that way. And then here's another attack. Each other player discards the top card from their deck. Gain 1 point for each waste discarded. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so this one is Regulations. This one I do like. It's very interesting. This is an attack. Each other player with 4 more cards reveals a waste card from their hand and places it on top of their deck. So it gets rid of the waste, but they don't have a card to replace it with, and then they have to deal with the waste again later. So totally thematic, you know, to Regulation kind of attitude there. Now we have Legal Counsel. This one gives you no money, but you can pay $1 to draw 2 cards, which is kind of nice. Sometimes you have that extra $1, which is interesting, and you don't know what to do with it. Reaction. So this is if somebody plays an attack, you reveal this. When another player makes an attack, you may reveal this card to ignore the attack. Pretty cool. I like this card quite a bit. This is kind of an insta buy. Even if there are no attacks in play, of course, you can always use the pay $1 to draw 2 cards. Now we have some of these new train cards. These are the ones that generate money. And this is cool because for each station placed this turn, you can gain a point. This is a really cool card. It also gives you $1. Monorail. This is draw 1 card, this 1 card, no big deal, but it does generate $2 for you. So this is a good card to buy. A little expensive, but it does a lot. Outdated Train gives you $2. When you buy this card, then you get a waste at the end of your turn. But it's a very cheap upgrade for your money cards, so pretty cool. And if you get waste early, it's a little easier to get rid of it before the waste gets too much out of hand, right? So biofuel train gives you $1. Return 1 waste from your discard pile or hand, and then you get $1. Okay, and here's the experimental train. This is on the cover, and this one gives you $2. And then if you want, you can get an extra $1 and then get a waste on top of that. So that's kind of cool. And then the mining train, gain $1 for each rail you have in the mountain, or as I call them, forest. This is cool. I like this. This has an effect based on what you're doing on the board itself, which is cool. They need to do more of that, I think. And then here we go with some lay track style cards. Choose one. You get to do 1 track and get 1 waste, or you can do 2 track and get 2 waste. So that's kind of nice. Gives you some quick track building possibilities at the cost of waste. Distant partners. Now this is cool. So you get normal type of lay track, but the extra cost for laying rails over remote locations is reduced by 1. So remember, remote locations are these spots here with the stars for victory points. So you reduce the cost of those by 1 when you lay track, which is pretty cool. And then we have here government subsidy, a normal lay track, but it gives you $1 to go ahead and lay the track. So effectively reducing the cost potentially for all types, but also giving you maybe money to spend on a card as well. Interchange, draw 1 card, discard 1 card, and then it's a lay track. Now those are, I think, all the cards. We'll go ahead and zoom out just a little bit here. I'm just going to show one of these maps because to me the main feature of these maps are these little 2-player maps. You can see this is actually sort of half a board, and on each side of this is, I'll leave that sideways, we have here a little 2-player only map, and these actually work quite well in improving the 2-player game. So there is some definite competition, and it's not just strictly a deck building exercise with 2 players. The board does actually matter more. And then of course you've got some other tracks here, or maps, and so this is Nagoya, and some rivers and things and stuff like that. So some new boards and things. You can also get some of the expansions and promo boards and all that stuff. So that is the expansion. Now what do I think of it? I really enjoy it, and I would definitely recommend, if you have not picked up the base game of Trains, to just go ahead and get this expansion, only because the 2-player maps are pretty much a must-have, I think, at this point. So if you're ever gonna play it with 2 players, then you got to get this, because the 2-player maps are just that much better, just because they're that much smaller and tighter. Now the cards themselves are, I would say, objectively better, right? So there are some attack cards which I enjoy, because that adds a kind of a weird tension to the deck building. It's not just pure engine building. There is sort of, a little bit of screwage involved, which is always fun. And the cards are just generally slightly more interesting. The cards in the base game are a little bit more vanilla. They're definitely sort of cloned out of Dominion. I believe there's some, it's not 100% a clone. I'm kind of beating that over a little bit. But they're a little bit vanilla and deck buildy, kind of generic kind of thing, So if you played a million deck builders, which I have, I seem to play them all just about, the cards aren't as obviously interesting. Now, again, the base game with the board makes the game, right? Because you have now, even with the vanilla cards, you have a balance between the deck building and the board placement and the race and all that stuff, which makes the game just shoot through the next level. I don't care how vanilla the cards are. But now, you've got some interesting cards, you've got the race on the board, you've got some attacks, you've got the route bonuses, there's some different ways that you can score points with some of the action cards. And so there's cool things you can do with your deck on top of, okay, do I go in here? Do I, stab out this way? Do I go for the, the long distance routes, or grab some cities and build up the stations, and how do I manage my waste and all that? So it's definitely an improvement. I would say get both, just because this style of game, this sort of setup deck building style like Dominion, you want a lot of variety in your setup so that it keeps the game interesting and fresh that way. So I'd say get both for sure, because this is easily my favorite deck builder. There are some other games that have deck building in them, but this is more like a pure deck builder, and I would say this this still for me is the best because it plays so well with multiple players, and now with 2 players. A lot of times with the deck builders, like I really like Star Realms, for example, and the 2 players kind of the way to go with that, and they have the Overlord in that game, which is also really fun with more players, but that one's really the 2-player head-to-head, you know, battle. But this is really excels at the multiplayer level. There's some other games like Mage Knight and stuff and Eminent Domain that have deck building in them, but you know, there's a lot more to those games. But this, to me, still feels like it's just a straight deck builder, but that board doesn't overweigh it enough so that it feels like some other game. So it's just in a weird spot where it's like, okay, it's a deck builder. It's just like deck builder 1.0 kind of thing. So you get that whole satisfaction of tuning your deck. And the waste obviously is amazing, but that board adds just enough to it, but it doesn't make it feel like it's not a deck builder anymore. I don't know how to explain that. But as far as like a pure deck builder goes, this is, you know, the quick breakout, play it in 45 minutes. This is the go-to. This stays in the collection for the foreseeable future. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's a quick, light family game, really, at the end of the day. And it's easy to break out, and it's race, and it's exciting, and you know, you go through it, and it just kind of plays and hums along. So that is the expansion. Definitely a must get, and definitely because of the 2-player maps, for sure. So anyway, take a look at it. Thanks.